Ahoy 3D Basics class. It's week 4. Today I am going to start with a little bit more talking about your assignment 2 and some more modeling tools and tips and tricks for modeling your mesh for your desk. And then we're going to move on to materials, lights, cameras, and rendering. And it sounds like a lot, and it kind of is, but they all kind of work together. And so it's sort of like rendering is like getting something usable out of Blender, an image, for example. So let's do it. Over to Blender. I've got a new general file here. Okay. I'm going to start by deleting my camera and deleting my light in the scene here. I did that by selecting those objects and hitting the delete key on my keyboard. But why don't I add a cube back in here? Okay, so I'm modeling a desk. I'm going to work kind of quickly and do kind of a basic shape here because it's once I get this basic shape, I'll show you the next couple of new things for you. So I'm going to SZ, scale the Z down like this, and I'm going to SY, scale the Y out like this, and maybe SX. I'm just kind of getting that about where I want it to be. And then I'll GZ move it up like this. Let's see. I need a really big long desk for all of my computer stuff. And then I'm also going to SX, make it a little wider. Oh, actually, I thought of something real quick. Let's say I wanted to actually kind of like trace the outline of a desk. Like, let's say I had found an image of a desk on the internet. I did an internet search, found one that looks like the one I want to do, and I want to actually trace it here in Blender. How do I do that? So let me open up a new browser window here. And I'm going to search desk. And I've got my dark mode on here. Flip that around. Okay. Let's see, desk front view. Because you want something that's like sort of orthographic. So like maybe something like this. Maybe this is what I'm going for. Okay. So let's say you find a reference image that you like, and you actually want to bring it into your scene. So what you should do is you should save an image, and I'll just put this on my desktop, and this will be desk reference. Cool, save that. All right, and once you've got that saved, we can go back into Blender, and let's Shift A, and rather than a mesh, we want to add an image. And we want a reference image. So this is actually an important step first. So you want to be in an orthographic view. Maybe do front like this. For whatever reason, whenever I like start to model things, I always do them like not necessarily the wrong way, but like I have the Y going this way and the X going this way. But anyway. Okay, I'm hitting 1 on my number pad for a front orthographic view. If you don't have a number pad, you can go up into your view menu here and go viewpoint front, like that. Okay, we're adding a reference image. So we're in an orthographic view. Then Shift A, add, and go down to image and add a reference image. And you can go find it on your desktop. Oh, there's pictures of my kids. And find that one, desk reference. There we go. And there it is. So now it's in your scene here. You can scale it up to be as big or as small as you want. But there it is. And so the handy thing is like you could take it's just treated as an object. So you can even rename this up here, and this is called ref image, maybe. But when you have it selected, you can go GUI and just move it way out of the way. So it's like infinitely far off, and it's kind of not in your business here when you're looking at it. But then when you go to your orthographic view, it's right in the front of you. So if I were to continue to work on it like this, so then you can just kind of line it up. So the other thing you can do is you can change the opacity of it. Let's see, do I remember how to do that? Yes, I do. So In your properties window here, bottom right, right here, object data properties, this little red one here. That's kind of, this is the symbol for image in Blender, so kind of get used to that, knowing what this means. It's like a square with a triangle and a little moon. So I'm guessing like a mountain and a sun or something. So click on that object data properties. And then here you have opacity. And you can check this box and change this value to like 0.5 or something like that, or even 0.25. So you can see it gets a little bit more transparent. So maybe it's a little easier to work with. One side note. The values for many things, so the values of things represented as a percentage in Blender are shown as a value between 0 and 1. So just like remember your decimals from math class whenever you did that. But that like a value of 1 equals 100%, a value of 0 is 0%, a value of 0.5 is 50%. And so these kinds of values are everywhere in Blender, and they're kind of referred to as a factor. A factor of 1, factor of 0.5, factor of 0.1. Anyway, so okay, so if I were to continue modeling this with my reference image, I could actually go tab to edit mode. I could SX, scale this out like that, and then maybe I turn on my X-ray select like this, and I select the bottom ones here, and maybe I extrude down like that, and then and then I'd click to apply that, and then maybe I do Control R to loop cut here like that, add a loop cut here, Control R, click, and then slide that into place there, and then maybe I select these and these, and maybe the other thing I should do is probably make this a more reasonable size here. So maybe I go SY and scale this down to like about the size of a desk. There we go. And then maybe I'll go 3 for face select. Maybe I'll turn off X-ray select here. Also hit 3 on the number pad, or not on the number pad, but the top row numbers, and I'll select this face, and I'll shift click on this face. So I got both of those selected. I'll go back to my front orthographic view, and maybe I'll extrude these down here like that, all the way down to there maybe. And then you could make the desk or the drawers. So maybe I select these, and maybe I turn on X-ray select so I can see through the desk a little bit. Select, but I don't want to actually select through it. I just want these 3, and I'll hold down the shift button, and I'll select these 3. Then maybe I'll insert faces. Insert faces. It didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Whoops. Undo. There we go. Insert faces. It kind of squished it at the top. Maybe if I adjust my insert faces parameters here, interpolate, outset, select outer, no. Individual, no. Interpolate, no. Depth. Maybe I'll try it again. Insert faces, and then maybe I'll go SZ like this. Oh yeah, that did the trick. Just to kind of draw them in a little bit. And you can keep going from there. So maybe then you take these 3, and then maybe you extrude like this, and then maybe you want to actually build individual shelves that come out of there. Or maybe here I go insert faces here, and then I go SZ to scale it in the Z direction here, and then maybe I go extrude like this, and then I insert faces again, and then SZ to do that again, and then I extrude this out so it actually looks like a little drawer in there. I don't know, maybe something like that. Anyway, reference image. That was reference image. I spent way more time than I wanted to on that. Sorry. So I'm already at 10 minutes, you guys. We've got a lot to cover. Okay, deleting my reference image, deleting that. So that's just something you can do. And you can find a lot of, like, they're almost like blueprints for things on the internet. So like if let me open up a browser window again real quick, and I search like X-Wing blueprint. If you're a Star Wars fan, go to image search. So you can find something like this, and drop this into your scene 4 times, one for each of the orthographic views. And then you can just like trace all of these different pieces and be like, and then you've got a perfect X-wing, you know? So that's reference images. Okay, next thing. Soft selection. So soft selection and subdivide are the next 2 topics. So let me real quick get a new cube in here. SZ like this, SX like this. I know I'm doing it the other way. Okay, so the desk that I have at work in my work office, not my home office here, has like a little curve in the middle. So I don't know why it makes a difference, but anyway, so how would I want to have like a gentle curve? Because right now to date we've only modeled things that are like pretty rigid and have uniform shapes. So how would I like have a little curve in here on the front edge, like where a chair would go? A couple ways to do it. So the first way would be to add a bunch of loop cuts. So if I hit tab and I'm in edit mode, I'm going to control R to bring out my loop cut tool, and I'm going to middle mouse wheel up so I have a bunch of loop cuts like this. I don't know how many that is, but it's many. And then I'll left click to apply that, and then right click to stop the movement. Okay, loop cut. So that was 26 cuts. Oh no, I should do 27 because I want an odd number. I want one right in the middle. Okay. Okay, the next thing, how would I get a little curve? Soft selection. And soft selection is, soft selection is not the right word. In Blender, it's called proportional editing. Proportional editing. And it's a toggle. So before we turn that toggle on, so let me go hit 1 for vertex selector. Or hit this button up here, and let's just grab like these front ones right here, right in the middle. So if I wanted to have like a curve on the inside here, I might have to, let me go 7 for top-down view. If I go G, I'm only moving those 2, GX even, I'm only moving those 2 vertexes. And then I could grab these ones, maybe turn on X-ray select. I could grab these and go GX and move those kind of into place and then go like but this is tedious. You don't need to do it like this. You don't need to grab one at a time. If you turn on this proportional editing mode, when if I could do top down and I hit the G key to move, you can see that now there's this gray circle kind of around where I selected. And you can see that even though I only grabbed those 2 vertexes, it's like everything is kind of stretching around as I move it. And so that gray circle is like the area of influence. And so if I hit this drop down, you can see that there's a variety of shapes here: smooth, sphere, root, inverse, square, sharp. This is sort of like the type of influence that happens inside that sphere. So, and you can change the shape of it. So so this is too big because you can see that when I move it, it's moving it on this back side as well over here. Sorry. So if I use my middle mouse wheel, scroll my middle mouse wheel like this, it's making that circle smaller, and that's shrinking the area of influence. So now if I move here, it's only going to do it. It's only going to do it inside the sphere. Right click to undo that. So G, if you go up down on the middle mouse wheel, it makes it bigger. In the middle mouse wheel makes it smaller, and I can go X like this, and you can see that if I roll. So this about right here is kind of the shape of my desk like that, and you can left click to apply that. So that is called proportional editing, and it's a toggle. So you only need to select one thing. So it works on all things too. So like you can go face select, hit this. And same thing with like scale. So if I do S for scale, it's going to scale up everything within that circle according to that shape I have selected. So you can, make the circle smaller or bigger, or shrink down. So this allows for like a little bit more natural shapes. And you can do the change the shape of this too. So another fun one. So let me undo. Another fun one is random. So if I go 7 for top down, I hit GX, you can see it's randomly changing the X value as I grab and move. So that's another way to add some like sort of randomness, some naturalness to some of your things. Just a note, your assignment 3 is related to making a tree, like modeling a spooky dead tree. And so obviously there's going to be a lot of like natural curving and things like that. Okay. So that is proportional editing. Make sure that when you're done with your proportional editing, let's actually just look at a couple of these other shapes. So what if I do constant like this? GX. Yeah, so then it just moves it all together. Or sharp GX. So you can see that makes it a point. Yeah, the shape is pretty accurate. But I would say for the most part, smooth kind of makes sense. GX. Okay. Do I have enough undos? Okay, I do. So, I talked about doing a bunch of loop cuts. So that was Control R, and then like just rolling your middle mouse wheel up. That's one way to do it. There is another way to quickly add geometry to your mesh, and that is by subdividing. And there's a couple ways to do it, but the way I'll show you today, the first way I'll show you is by simply in edit mode, right clicking and hitting subdivide. And so what subdivide does is let's turn on wireframe like this and actually turn off X-ray. What subdivide does is it cuts every surface into 4. So if I hit 3 on my number pad for face select and have a face selected, I can right click it, subdivide. So it cuts anything you have selected into 4. Right click, subdivide. Right click, subdivide. Oh, and it looks like there's even a little subdivide menu if you wanted. Right click, subdivide. Oh. Anyway, close that. Subdivide. Am I not in edit mode anymore? Right click. Whoops. I'm going off the rails. Right click, subdivide. Yeah, interesting. It's not actually having the exact behavior I expected. Right click, subdivide. But anyway, just be aware that that exists. So if you're wanting to do some soft selection, let me go back to, what do you call this? Solid mode. If you have a plane, tab to edit mode, right click, subdivide. Now you got 4. Right click, subdivide. Now you have 16. Subdivide. Now you have 64. So just remember that this is one thing you can do. It's you're actually changing the geography of it, the topology, and you can do some more interesting soft selection things. Okay. Real quick, let's delete. Actually, tab delete this. Delete. Okay, let's talk about materials, lights, cameras, and action. No, and rendering. Okay, I'm gonna start do a new general scene here. So go up to your file menu, go new, file, new, general. Don't save. You know what I just noticed is that like I'm only looking at my capture window. Like I actually have Blender on this screen over here, but it's for whatever reason I just have to look over here. Random. Okay. So we've only looked at our 3D models and stuff in the program of Blender in our viewport. But how do we get it out? How do we? No, I'm gonna get ahead of myself a little bit. No, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. To actually produce an image, we need to render. So we have our new scene here. In order to render, you have to have a camera in your scene. So this is our camera. This is a camera. They're the symbol of a camera. The arrow kind of signals what is up. You know, so like you can like rotate this around, and then it's an upside down camera. But just like all objects, all other objects, lights and cameras can be manipulated with the G button. G to move it around. G. Okay, but let me undo that. Undo all of those things. Okay. To render, keyboard shortcut is F12. You also have a render menu up here, and you can do render image. And your computer will then generate an image. So this is what that basic cube looks like rendered. And so a rendered image takes into account all of your lights, all of your materials, and all of your camera settings. So because we just had one light and the camera was just the default camera, this is what we're left with. So that's lit. Your box is lit on one side and it's a little shady on one side. So when you render an image, it just sort of it loads it into Blender as the most recent render. So if you actually wanted to save this, you just need to make sure that you go image, save, and pick a place to save it. I should make a folder. Oh, I do have a folder. Spring 2023. There we go. Save as image. There we go. And I'll call this first box. Save as image. Great. Where's my mouse? There we go. And so then if you go and look on your on my desktop in spring 2023, here's first box. There it is. It's an actual thing, and you can email it to all your friends. Email? Who emails anymore? You can meme it to all your TikToks. Okay. Okay, so it's rendered. How do you make it not gray and boring? Okay, good question. I'm gonna GZ. I'm gonna move this up a little bit. Actually, and I'm gonna make my Z location exactly 1. And then I'm actually just gonna S scale this up a little bit. I'm gonna Shift A. I'm gonna add a plane. Okay, make it really big. Let's just see what this looks like. Okay, there we go. Somehow, oh yeah, because I moved it up. Is it? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. GZ, move that up. F12. Okay, so we're seeing the like ground around it. Okay. How to add a material? Let's add a material to our box. So right next to my head here, bottom right, properties window, we've looked at object properties. We're pretty comfortable with all these are. The locate, the transform properties, X, Y, Z, the scale, all that stuff. Head on down to this beach ball here. Material properties. Cool. Okay, material properties. On this default cube here, you have a material called material. Let's explore this a little bit more. Now, this may look scary because look at all of these different values. The surface is of type principled BSDF. Principled BSDF is like the kind of basic catch-all type of material. If you click on this, you can see that there's actually a lot of different sort of presets, we'll call them. Emission, glass, glossy hair, refraction, specular. You'll learn what many of these are. But principled BSDF is the one that contains everything. So it's sort of like all of these other things, a glass, a tune, whatever, can be achieved with principled BSDF. Nerd alert. BSDF stands for bidirectional No, I gotta look it up. I've already forgotten. I thought it bidirectional scatter diffuse function. Wikipedia, help. I was close. Bidirectional scattering distribution function. So it's sort of like it's math that calculates how light bounces off of a surface. So this is indirect light beam and specular reflection. But anyway, boring. BSDF. Okay. You don't even need to like play with any of these right now. The first thing let's play with is base color. So click on that white and let's just make this pink. But now notice we don't see it change. And that's because we're in solid mode. So remember, maybe you don't remember. Up here, we have different ways of shading the viewport, of viewport shading. Right now we're in solid mode. I think you've also seen, I showed you wireframe mode. There's two more. There's material preview, and there is render preview. So let's look at material preview. Aha, and now it's pink. And actually, maybe pink is not the best color, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Let's make this like a nice green. Aha. So material preview mode. The keyboard shortcut to change your viewport shading is Z. So if you tap Z on your keyboard, you get this little kind of, what do they call this? A pie menu or a wheel menu or something. And you can select wireframe or Z. You can do rendered or solid or material preview. So notice the difference between rendered and material preview. So material preview is you're just previewing materials. Get it? And rendered is also factoring in lighting. So if you go Z rendered, you can see that we have a light up here. And now because we're in render preview, you can G move the slider on and see what happens. See the shading of the light change. Okay, great. So let's click back onto your cube here, and remember we're in the material properties tab here. This little red beach ball. We've changed the base color, and you know what? I encourage you to like F around and find out. See what some of these other things do. Metallic. What does it look like if you turn up the metallic? Oops. It looks a little more metallic. I don't know. Or what about specular? What about roughness? Oh, roughness. Yeah. Okay. Some things are happening. Okay, great. All right. Interesting. Let's say we want this to be a wood floor. We got and I should make sure to be labeling things. This is the floor. Our floor doesn't, so with the floor selected, I'm going to go to my material properties tab here in the properties window. You've got a couple options here, or you've got many options. But one thing you can do is you can assign the same material to different objects. So if you already have a nice green that you like here, it's like, oh, I want that floor to be the same green. You can hit this little beach ball drop down, and you can select a material that you've already done. And actually, it's probably a good idea to name your materials too. So like, there's a couple ways to do it. I'm back on the cube. I'm in my material properties tab. This green one, you can see just like a little preview of it here. You can double click on there and we can call this green guy. I think you can even type right here too. Yep, green guy. Yep. Also, there is like a preview window here too, but I keep mine closed. Okay, and then if you click on the cube, our floor here, you can hit this little beach ball here, and you can see all of the materials you already have in the scene. So you can say, yeah, let's make that green guy. Yep. If you want to take something off, I believe it's as easy as just clicking on it over here and just hitting the delete key. No, I think you actually do have to hit the minus, remove material. And you can create a new material. There's a new material button here like this. New material. Let's just call it material. We can just call this floor material. Floor. Okay, so we want this to be like a wood floor. How would we do that? I don't know. Maybe change the base color. Maybe it's like brown. But color, I mean, all of these things, like we actually need like to find a picture of wood. Let's do it. Let's do it. To the internet. Find some wood. Wood floor. Let's just do an image search, wood floor. Okay. Here we go. So, when searching for images on the internet, you have to be careful. Many things are copyrighted. Many things are pretend to be things that they're not. Like, some of these are kind of like clickbaity things. Like, like this one, for example, here. This one looks nice. It's 2000 by 2000 pixels. That looks awesome. I like that. That's a good size. It looks like it might even be a repeating texture, which would be cool. But a lot of times if you click on this, you get to it, it's like behind a paywall or it's got a watermark on it or something like that. So it's sort of like use at your own risk. I think with things like material textures, it's more often than not acceptable to find things you can use on the internet. But I will say there are a couple of repositories that have nice free image textures. One of them being Polyhaven, POLYHAVEN.com. Polyhaven. Free 3D asset library. Let me actually turn off dark mode here a little bit. There we go. Textures. So like if you browse these textures, like these are all free textures. Like you can even do like floor like this. Oh, and some of these are really nice. Yeah. Plank flooring. Let's look at this one. Oh, this one looks really good. Now I will say if you're going to download these, these contain a lot more complicated material things. Like there's bump maps and other things like that that we may eventually get to. There's also plugins that kind of do these things for you. But I'm just like for right now, for today, I'm just showing you the basics of using an image texture. So I'm gonna download one of these, and I'm just gonna download a 2K thing. You can download a Blender file if you want that'll actually have this all set up for you. But also like you can just dig the image out of it. So I'm gonna open this up. Okay, so here's what it looks like when I open it up. It's a zip, and it has the Blender file. It has textures, but I just want one of these. I think it's just the JPEG, right? Open with photos. Yeah, okay. JPEG, sure. So I'm just going to extract that. And like, you can download this one too. If you really want to download that one, that's fine too. Okay, so I downloaded that. Now, how do we put it on our floor? Okay. Surface. Rather than a principled BSDF, we want... Why I'm having a brain fart. Oh, sorry. We're not changing the surface, we're changing the base color. So next to base color here, we're not using a color, we're going to use an image to show our color. So click on this little yellow circle right next to base color here. And rather than a color, we want an image texture. Aha, here we go. It's working. Okay. So we want to, right underneath the image texture here, we want to open. And now we just need to go find that. So I put it on my desktop. There's all of those things, all of my meeting recordings. I gotta remember to put things in the HTC folder so I'm not doxing myself. Okay, and I'm gonna open this image. Aha, bingo! So now you've got a wood floor texture. Great. And so here, so our base color is an image texture, and you can still change some of these values. You can change your roughness of it. Roughness changes like how shiny something is. You probably don't want to change metallic. But, there's a few other things that you can adjust on here. But basically, like that's the essential way to put an image onto a surface. Okay, so and remember, now that this is saved as our floor texture, if I go back to the cube and I say, oh, you know what, I think I want this to be wooden too, you can just hit this drop down and hit floor, and now it's a floor, or now it's a wooden box on a wooden floor. Okay. Okay, so I told you about why it's important to, or I told you why pink was maybe not the best color to use. I'll show you why. So let's say I go and I delete this. I delete this image texture, this plank flooring. Should I, if I'm like, well, let's see. Okay, so just let me save this. Let me save this in spring 2023. This is going to be wood floor. I'm going to save it, save my Blender file. And just like open it again, open wood floor. It's pink. What once was plank now is pink. So a pink material means a missing file. So just make sure, okay, so here's a couple things. If you're using image textures as part of your assignment, you need to include them with your Blender file. So, like if I had submitted just my Blender file for assignment 2, my instructor would see just a bunch of pink because all of the image textures are missing. So, what you should do when you're submitting assignments from now on is keep your image textures with your Blender file. So, for example, if I had my downloads and I went to my wood plank flooring and I got this and I got this, the JPEG, I'd put it right next to my Blender file, and you can either like compress them together if you've got if you have 7-zip or WinZip or whatever. You can compress. I don't know, like this, and so that they're all together, and submit your zip file or whatever. Or you can just upload all of the files individually to D2L as well. So it's just something to be aware of. So now I believe if I just like go like this, maybe, if I toggle it, will it work? Open 2023. Okay, it's back. Okay. That was a little bit of a tangent. I apologize. So, with your desk, maybe you do find some like wood texture, like natural looking wood, or maybe your desk isn't made of wood. Maybe it's something else. Metal. Maybe you find a cool metal image, or maybe you don't want to use image textures at all. Maybe you just want to have colors and things, and that's fine too. That's a stylistic choice. Let's take a render preview here. Okay. Lights. Let's talk about lights. So I'm in render preview now. So this is the third one here. Viewport shading, render preview. And let's analyze the different types of lights. So we have the default light in the scene here is a point light. And so a point light is like, is basically like a light bulb that emanates light in every direction. So it doesn't matter which way it's facing. It just lights up what's near it. The nice thing about a 3D workspace is that light is calculated fairly realistically. So light has a property called the inverse square property. And this is, and I should say real light has something called the inverse square property. So that if you double the distance, and I'm going to get this wrong. Wikipedia. Inverse square law. Okay, here we go. A scientific law stating that a specified physical quantity is inversely blah, 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 blah. So it's basically like if you double the distance, you quarter the intensity. So that's a super nerdy way of saying the closer your thing is to the light, the brighter it's going to be. So like look at how bright our floor is right here, right next to the light, and then look at it over here. It's barely lit. Anyway, so a point light has so on in your, and I guess I'm still big faced Nolan. Properties window on properties window on the bottom right here. This little orange thing is our object properties. Down here, green light bulb, object data properties. You can change several things. You can change the light color. You could make it a blue light, or a teal light, or a green light, or an orange light. You obviously all know what colors are. You can also change the power, 1,000 watt. You know, if you know anything about light wattages, it's gotten a little more complicated over the years with LED lights becoming all the rage everywhere, but like, and I don't exactly know what this equates to, but like generally speaking in 3D, you know, you're working in the hundreds and sometimes thousands of watts for light. So if you have a 10 watt light, it's like nothing. You know, like the light bulbs you buy for your house are like 60 watt equivalents. Those are pretty dim. So like if you go 500, you know, that's pretty decent size light. If you go 5,000, it's maybe a little bit too bright, but maybe not. 1,000. You can also change the radius. So a radius of 0 means it truly is a singular point. And so look at kind of the sharpness of this shadow. And actually, we're going to talk about shadows in a little bit. So like a radius of 0, whoops, and I should select my light again. Where's my light? Where's my light? Right there. Radius of 0 is like a pretty sharp shadow. As you increase the radius, it kind of makes for a softer shadow. So it's a larger light source. And those of you that have taken a lighting class at Hennepin Tech or have done some video production, this should hopefully make sense to you, that lights in 3D are built to work as they do in real life. So a larger light source is a softer light, softer shadows. A smaller light source, smaller radius is harsher shadows. Okay, that's a point light. Let me delete a point light. Shift A, go to your light, and then let's do spotlight next. Now, by default, it's kind of hidden under everything, so I'm going to G move it up like this. Now, one thing I never understood about Blender is that it always adds lights at 10 watts, which is like nothing. So if you're like, well, my light's not doing anything, you got to up the power, make it like 500, make it 1,000. There we go. And so a spotlight is, you know, like a light on a stage. So it's directional and has like you know, a cone sort of. Dunk. So with a spotlight, you can change the direction of it like this. It has a little target, so you can kind of drag this this yellow target around at things if you want. But it also you can also use the regular transform properties. So G, R for rotate, S for scale. The scale doesn't do too terribly much. But, you know, same things. You can have a larger radius, a smaller radius, up the intensity a little bit. Let's make this 2,000 watts. Whoops, not 200. 2,000. Oh, let's make it a pink spotlight. Now we've got to make it 5,000 because pink isn't quite as bright. I keep missing a 0. So, you know, size. The size angle is, you know, how wide it is, how narrow it is. The blend is the thickness of this line around the outside. So it's sort of like how much it tapers off. So this is like a really sharp edge of the circle. If you turn up the blend, it's kind of a much softer thing. It's different from the radius, though, because the radius affects the shadows that the light is casting, and the blend is just the shadow of the edge of the light. Show cone? Oh, yeah, okay. So that's a spotlight. My favorite kind of light, I'm going to delete that. Shift A is an area light. So I'm going to G move this up. So an area light is like a big soft box. So once again, it's 10 watts is nothing, so make it 1500 or something like that. But it's just sort of like a large diffuse light. You can change the size of it and the shape of it, so you can make it like a, you know, like kind of an LED panel like this. I think they have lights like this at Hennepin Tech. So, you know, you can point it at things or rotate things a little bit, you know, whatever. So if you wanted to do some 3-point lighting, maybe you got one that you like here, and you go Shift D, move it over here like this. Where's my mouse? You know, point it at our cube there. Kind of rotate a little bit. I'm usually like a little bit sloppy with my lights. And then you cut this one in half, right? 750. And then Shift D over here, and you rotate this around, and this is like your fill light, and that's what would that be? 400. It's a nice 3-point lighting. So you know you can get creative with lights. Let's see what the render looks like here. Oh, and I realize my camera's on the other side, so if I do F12, this is what it looks like. Fine. Okay, here's a keyboard shortcut, or here's a trick to moving your camera around. So you can obviously like G and R and rotate your camera around like that, but I find that to be super tedious. And there's a shortcut to make the camera be where your viewport is. So if you get kind of your viewport about where you want it to be. So I think maybe this would be kind of the right angle here if my key light's back there. If you're on Windows, Control and Alt and then number pad 0 is set camera to active view, I believe is what it's called. And actually I then want to move it up a little bit. Control Alt 0. And now I can see that I actually need to G Shift Z move this over here so that I'm not seeing the background very much. There we go. So if you hit this button here, this is going to toggle your active camera view. So like if you hit this one here or hit number pad 0, it's going to change your viewport to where your camera is. Now, if you don't have a number pad or you don't have Control Alt, or you don't want to dig around to what that keyboard shortcut can be, you can also go into View, Cameras. No, which one is it? Align View. Here we go. Align Camera to Active View. So it's in the View drop down here, Align View, and then it says Align Camera to View. So it's going to move your camera to wherever you're looking, which is super handy because then I almost never actually move the camera around. I just do Control Alt 0, number pad 0. Okay. All right, so let's just give this a render image again here. There we go. There's my desk. Don't forget to save this image. Save. And this will be the second box. I must have had caps lock on. Great. So, if you were to submit this to D2L, you would submit your Blender file, your any image textures you have, so like a wood floor or whatever, a wooden texture, and a rendered image. But let's, so, and that's fine. But if you want to stick around, so we're at about 50 minutes, but I'm going to dig into rendering a little bit more here. So this is sort of bonus stuff, but we're going to dig into a little bit more of render settings and talking about different render engines and get some really cool, really special render stuff. Okay. I'm actually going to start a new file here, new general file. Save. No, don't save. I'm gonna delete this. Shift A. A plane. Scale this up. Shift A, and I want a monkey. GZ. Okay. Okay. Render preview. Great. Let's RZ, rotate Suzanne this way a little bit like that. Okay. And I'm going to move this light a little bit closer. All right, so I invite you now to look at the render properties tab up here. It looks like the back of a DSLR camera. So I hit it, render properties. Very top thing here says render engine Eevee, like the Pokemon. Eevee is a kind of faster, more efficient renderer. And it does that because it's sort of faking the shadows. It's doing math tricks to not actually calculate all of the light and all of the shadows and things like that. And you probably noticed it on the render that where the box intersected with, and actually I can even show you. I can even show you because I rendered it. I gotta bookmark my spring 2023. Put it on my quick things. There we go. Second box. Here in second box, like right here, you can see that the shadow looks bad. At least to kind of the trained eye. The shadow doesn't look great because it's like, what's that line? Why isn't there a shadow right here? Anyway. So that's because we're using Eevee, and there's nothing wrong with using Eevee. So like right now, if I have these intersect here, not great. The fancier render engine is Cycles. So Workbench is actually just like solid mode basically. So Workbench you may never use, but Eevee and Cycles. So if we switch over to Cycles. You can see my recording slows down a little bit. But Cycles is using ray tracing. You've maybe heard of that, those of you that are gamers, to actually trace the light emitting from, or the rays of light emitting from your light source and kind of where it's bouncing around. And it's much more realistic shadows, much more realistic lighting. Real quick, if you have a computer that has a graphics card, a GPU, maybe you've got a gaming rig, you can select that as your Cycles rendered device. So if you we're in render properties here, Cycles versus Eevee, and you can change your device to GPU compute. So notice it actually went a lot faster for me because of reasons. Let's go and look at your preferences real quick, because maybe you have a GPU and you don't even realize it. So hit the edit menu and go down to preferences. And take a look at, which one is it? System here, system. Cycles render devices. So there's a few different options here. If you have a NVIDIA graphics card, you maybe have CUDA or optics. I have an AMD graphics card. And so you can choose your graphics card or your processor or whatever. I just upgraded to a Ryzen 9 5900X for my processor. But I have a 5600 XT, which is a modest graphics card. But it actually does make my renders go significantly faster. So if you check one of those, then you should have this option here to do GPU compute, because maybe it's grayed out for you initially. And so then things can happen a lot faster. So what you see now when you move around the viewport, you can see there's kind of all this little like artifact, this sort of noise. That's because it's taking time to calculate all of the ray trace light. And so now you can see as I move the light source around, it's much more realistic lighting. So because we're getting some like bouncing of the light off of the floor here onto Suzanne, and it's not. And you can see that like the shadow is a little lighter here where it's closer to the source, but then it's darker here where more of it is obscured. You can see the softness is like just right. So if I click on my light and I go back to my object data properties, this green one down here, we can change the radius so that it's perfect. It's 0, so now you can see there are no soft edges to the shadow. You can up the radius a little bit, and it'll make the shadow softer. So you can see here with the Cycles engine, it's a much more realistic dealio. Okay, continuing. I'm just going to add a couple of quick materials on here. So I'm going to select the floor. And I'm going to go down to the little beach ball here, material properties. I'm going to add a new material to the floor. And this one can be, no, nothing too bombastic. I'll just make it blue. Oh, and just for fun, let's experiment with the glass. So with Suzanne selected, I'm going to do new. And rather than doing a principled BSDF, I'm going to click on glass. Oh, yeah. So now it's like looks like glass. Okay. And I will say, there are many things, including the things I'm showing you right now, glass and the next thing, that only work in Cycles, that Eevee like just can't fake it. So like if you put a glass material on something in Eevee and you're using Eevee, it'll look kind of like white and pale like this, but the light's not going to shine through it. So you can kind of change the roughness of it and, actually have light shine through it and things like that. IOR, I looked this up once, but it's sort of like the amount of refraction that light has when it travels through something. So you can look up the IOR values of things and it can kind of change how it looks. But most things are between like 0.8 and like 1.5. Anyway, okay, so that's glass. But let's make this. Let's go back to principled BSDF. So I clicked on the surface type here. I made this principled BSDF. And let's actually make this metallic. So go way up on the metallic, go way down on the roughness, and now it's sort of like just like a chrome monkey. Cool. Okay. So let's do, I'm going to add a new light in here, Shift A. I want to add a area light. And so the other cool thing about Eevee is that, I'm trying to line this up the right way. I'm going to S-scale this up and change my power to 1500. Is that lights are visible in reflections. So you can you can see the reflection of the light in Suzanne's chrome material there like that. Okay, one more cool thing I'll show you. Actually, maybe I'll turn this down to like. Actually, so for fun, I'm going to delete the area light and delete the point light. So now it's just dark. Shift A. I'm going to add some text. And I'm going to tab to edit this text, and I'm going to just say like 3D basics. And I got to find a good font. Hold on. So I want to go to my object data properties, open up my font tab here, and just find a really good font. Oh, this one, the Bauhaus. Yeah, open font. Here we go. Okay. Here's your little bonus. Okay, so let me go back to my transform properties here. I need to reset my rotation real quick because I kind of messed it up. Rotation Y, right? 90? Nope. It's 90. 90 in the X. Okay. To make text an object. So right now, text is just a text. You can go to your object. So in object mode, object, And you can convert this. So go all the way down to convert and convert it to a mesh like that. So now it's actually, if you hit tab mode, you can see all the polygons and stuff like this. I should go back to regular mode like this. And I'll go faces. I'm going to go A for all and E for extrude. And then I'm just going to extrude this out a little bit. Tab. Okay. All right. So we have our 3D text. I'm going to go back to a render preview like this. I'm going to add a material to this. Add a new material. I'm going to change the surface. This is going to be, we're going to call this neon. I'm going to change my surface. Oops, I keep clicking the wrong window. Change my surface to emission. And make this, you know, like kind of like a lavender color. And I'm going to up the strength a little bit. So emission materials are like lights. Like they act as lights in the scene here. RZ. This is going to be, hold on, RZ. No, G, Shift Z. I want to move this back a little bit so we're getting a little bit of the reflection in Suzanne there. Yes. Okay. Scale up my ground plane. Control Alt 0. Okay. I just got to angle it down just a little bit. Control Alt 0. F12. Okay, here's our render. Oh shoot, no, before I do cancel that, I forgot one thing. So emission lights act as emission materials act as lights in cycles. So notice if I go back to my render properties and I switch this back over to Eevee, it's not a light. It's not lighting up the scene. So this is just a feature of cycles. The other thing, and I probably went way too fast on some of these things. Look at the sampling here. Viewport, so I have cycles selected. I'm in my render properties here. Cycles is selected. I've got sampling twirled open here. Viewport, this is the number of times your computer is going to calculate the light. Also known as the number of times it's sampling the light. Render, this is the more important one. Maximum amount of samples. So that's like the number of times for each pixel, it says, that it's going to try to figure out what color it is. Based on the material, based on the light, based on the reflection, based on everything around it. This is a lot of samples. For some renders, like 4,000 samples may take hours. So you've got a couple of ways to kind of curb this. You can either say like, well, let's start with 24 samples, see what that gives me. Or you can set a time limit. Say like, don't render for longer than 20 seconds. This is seconds. So we can also, you can change this back to whatever it was, 40, 64 or something like that. So now if I do F12, you can see that it's calculating the number of samples here, and every sample it does, it gets a little bit nicer, the more of the noise goes away, etc. But then it also, there's the time limit here. So 14, 15 seconds, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So in 20 seconds, it did 292 samples. Anyway, I'll save this. Save as. This is called Neon PNG. Save. Cool. Okay, a couple other things I probably should have said earlier. Underneath render properties, we have output properties. So look at this. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward for everybody. But resolution X, resolution Y, 1920 by 1080. That's a normal HD size. Maybe you want something smaller. Maybe you want something square. Maybe it's 1080 by 1080. You can see that when you change that, it kind of changes the shape of your camera here. And then file output. PNG obviously is fine. Let me move my face. PNG is fine. There's other kinds of images, JPEG or whatever, but I pretty much always do PNG. Yeah, and that should be good. I feel like I maybe covered too much in 1 week. But don't fret. I kind of wanted you to get your feet wet with lighting and rendering and materials. So here's what your takeaway should be. So for assignment 2, finish modeling your desk, hopefully, or yeah, you should finish that. Experiment with materials, slap a few things on there. Experiment with lighting. Maybe your desk has some dramatic lighting on it, or maybe it's just lit from above by a couple lights, no big deal. So looking at your assignment real quick. Okay, let me swing way over here on my other monitor. D2L. Sorry, stand by. Stand by. Am I Rich? Rich always used to say stand by. Maybe he still does. Okay, assessments, assignments. Okay, model a desk. Okay. So it says 6 points for use of modeling tools and techniques to make your desk, 2 points for use of materials, 2 points for use of lights, and 2 points for submitted render. So what I'm asking is that you have materials, that you have lights, and that you just submit a render. So to me, it doesn't matter what kind of lights you use. It doesn't matter what kind of which render engine you do, what kind of materials, if you do image textures or not, just that they exist. And as we go through the semester, we'll build a little bit more on that. So we're over an hour now. So definitely let me know if you have questions on any of these things. I'd be happy to spend a little bit more time on a particular subject, but just know that your goal for this week is just to kind of experiment and understand what's going on with materials and lights and rendering. And we'll rest assured we'll be talking about it more. Anyway, okay, I'll stop rambling. Bye. Let me know if you have questions.